This time on Auto Mundial, the weekly car news and review show, we take a look at AMG's first ever electric car, the all-new Mercedes EQS 53.
We also have a selection of new SUVs from Jeep, Volkswagen and Honda, as well as the staggeringly quick BMW X3M Competition. First though, the news.
"2021 may have been a tough year for many in the car industry, but not, it seems, for British luxury brands. Both Bentley and Rolls Royce had record-breaking years for sales despite the ongoing pandemic and chip shortages. Bentley sold more than 14,500 vehicles last year, up from 11,000 in 2020, its previous record. The success can be put down to demand for the updated Bentayga SUV and the new Flying Spur, which had its first full year on sale. Rolls-Royce, meanwhile, boasted a 49% increase in sales, up to 5,500 deliveries worldwide. With the highest sales figures in the brand's 117-year history, the demand looks set to continue into this year, with order books for the Phantom full until the end of 2022.
The Jeep Compass has had a midlife facelift for 2022. Well, we say facelift, but from the outside at least, nothing much seems to have changed. Jeep reckons that Compass customers love the looks of the old car, so if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They have made one or two cosmetic changes though. The lower grille is wider and the bumper looks ever so slightly more aggressive, while LED headlights are now standard across the range. The interior has had a much more thorough update with a completely new dashboard design. It looks much more premium with its new 10.1-inch touchscreen infotainment system and a swanky digital dash display. Jeep wants the Compass to take on the likes of the Hyundai Tucson and Skoda Karoq, so it's upped the interior quality to compete. The biggest change, though, comes with the introduction of a new plug-in hybrid system. Called 4xe, a name we've previously seen on the hybrid Wrangler, it pairs an electric motor to the Jeep's 1.3-litre turbocharged petrol engine. Total power is an impressive 237 brake horsepower, getting the Compass from 0 to 62 in 7.5 seconds. Not bad, but not exactly rapid either. It's plenty quick enough in this class though, and the 30-mile electric-only range will be plenty for most commutes and school runs. The electric motor is also useful off-road, where the Jeep's new EAWD system allows for greater control on loose surfaces. The new Compass then may look the same on the outside, but this is a thoroughly updated car. It's packed full of new tech, especially the top-spec S model, and the new hybrid powertrain means that this will be one of the cheapest cars in its class to run. The Jeep Compass isn't an obvious choice, but one that is well worth considering.
The BMW X3 has long been one of the most popular premium small SUVs, having practically invented the segment when the original launched way back in 2003. And while it may have grown since then, it's also gained some competition. Now though, it's been updated. The third-gen car has received a midlife facelift, but don't worry, it's one of BMW's better recent designs. The kidney grills have grown and they've now joined in the middle, but they're far from 4 Series sized. And it isn't just the grille that's been redesigned. The whole front end has been refreshed with a more angular look and some smart new slimmer headlights. The rear end has had the same treatment, giving the X3 a modern new look. To complete the aesthetic updates, there's a range of new colour options and some new wheel designs. The coupe version, the X4, has had a similar range of updates, but still doesn't quite look as good as the X3 to us. And it isn't just on the outside where BMW has been busy. Climb inside and you'll find an updated interior too, with some more angular air vents to match the exterior, a new digital instrument panel, upgraded infotainment and new switchgear, making the X3 feel very current. All models come with leather as standard, while the whole cockpit is filled with high quality materials. It's every bit the BMW, and it's practical too. We mentioned earlier that the X3 has grown over the years, so much so that this current car is bigger than the original X5. As such, it has a big boot and plenty of space for 5 passengers. There's no option for a third row of seats, but this is a great family car. All versions now come with BMW's 48-volt mild hybrid system, which can provide an extra 11 horsepower when required. There are various petrol and diesel engines to choose from, as well as a plug-in hybrid model, but the flagship model is this, the new BMW X3M.
Specifically, the X3M Competition, the fastest and most expensive X3 you can buy. Like the regular car, the M has been subject to a host of cosmetic updates. The new grille is finished in gloss black, while there are some new, bigger air intakes to improve cooling. There's a new rear spoiler and some new alloy wheels, but it's under the bonnet that we're most interested in. The twin turbocharged 3-litre straight-six still produces the same 503 brake horsepower, but it now makes more torque, dropping the 0 to 0 to 62 time by 0.3 seconds to 3.8. That's very fast indeed. But again, the X3M, like the more humble versions, has some impressive rivals. Namely this, the beautiful Alfa Romeo Stelvio Quadrifoglio. Like the BMW, the Alfa has been subject to a recent refresh. It builds on the standard car with wider wheels and a lower, more aggressive stance. Using much of the chassis from the Giulia Quadrifoglio saloon and the same twin-turbo V6, the Stelvio puts on 503 brake horsepower, exactly the same as the smaller Alfa and the X3M. The acceleration is exactly the same too, while their respective top speeds are almost identical. One thing they can be separated on, however, is price. The handsome Alfa Romeo starts at a not inconsiderable £75,000. The BMW, though, that's 10 grand more. It's almost £7,000 more than the V8-powered Jaguar F-Pace SVR and a whopping 20,000 more than a Porsche Macan GTS. The X3M may well be right up there with the best in its class, but it certainly comes at a price.
Volkswagen has a new SUV for its North American lineup, and here it is, it's the all-new Taos. The smallest model in the brand's SUV lineup for America, it sits below the Tiguan like the T-Roc does in Europe. Named after a town in New Mexico famed for its art and historic architecture, the Taos has very much been designed with Americans in mind. Its styling is more conservative than its European equivalents, and there are no hybrid versions on offer. Instead, the Taos uses a 1.5-litre petrol motor from a Jetta, putting out 158 horsepower with 2- and 4-wheel drive versions available. Despite being the smallest SUV in the range, it is actually a little bit wider than the world market Tiguan, and its long wheelbase and tall roof make it one of the roomiest and most usable cars in its class. Rivals like the Ford Bronco Sport and the Kia Seltos may offer more style, but nothing gets close to the Taos in terms of sheer practicality. Climb inside the roomy cabin and you're greeted by typical VW build quality. It's built to last and is a noticeable step up from many of its domestic rivals. Base Model S versions get decent standard kit, but it's worth stumping up the extra $4,000 for the SE, which gains a modern infotainment system and a load of safety tech as well as fancier upholstery. Volkswagen says it has no plans to bring the Taos to Europe, and with cars like the T-Cross, T-Roc and Tiguan already doing a stellar job of filling just about every crossover SUV niche, we can't say we're that surprised. Nor are we particularly bothered. The T-Roc is a much more interesting car, and there's even an R version.
After the break, Honda's new crossover and the new electric AMG Merc.
Coming up, a strangely quiet AMG Mercedes. But first,
Honda was late to the small crossover party when finally in 2016 it resurrected the old HR-V name. Based on the same platform as the Jazz Super Mini, it was a decent, if rather forgettable car that often missed out against its countless rivals, thanks to its bland styling and relatively high price tag. Now though, there is a new one, and from first glance it's clear to see that any dull design of the old car has been ditched. Instead, the new HR-V looks slick and contemporary, with a flush new grille and smooth lines throughout. In this fiercely competitive corner of the market, it is good to stand out, but while the exterior looks bang on, the cabin is slightly less stylish. It does have everything you'd expect though, and passenger comfort has been improved over the old car, with more legroom making this one of the most spacious cars in the class. The boot isn't the biggest at 319 litres, but the clever folding magic seats make up for it, allowing you to carry taller things. The most intriguing part of the new HR-V though is the hybrid powertrain. Under the bonnet sits a 1.5 litre petrol motor. Nothing unusual about that, but it's mostly used as a generator for the battery and electric motor. The HR-V drives for the most part like an electric car, with the petrol ICE engine assisting under acceleration for a combined 129 bhp. It is a clever system that means the Honda is economical, although the extra batteries and tech means it is still rather pricey, starting at a shade under £28,000.
And at that money there are plenty of other options to choose from, not least this, the Nissan Duke. For HR-V money, you'll be looking at the very top spec Dukes, with entry-level cars still coming in at under 20 grand. A clear evolution of the old model, the new Duke continues the love it or hate it styling with a strange front end and a chunkier rear. It certainly looks more modern, although we're still not quite sold on the weird headlight arrangement. It seems like we're in the minority though, as the previous Duke was a huge sales success for Nissan, despite its even more peculiar face. In profile, the new Duke actually looks pretty good, with bold, exaggerated wheel arches and tapering roofline giving it a sporty look. It's wider and longer than the old car, with 105mm being added to the wheelbase. Despite that though, the new model is 35 kilos lighter than its Renault Captur platform and high-tension steel construction. The Duke is powered by a 1-litre turbocharged 3-cylinder petrol from the Micra, with either a 6-speed manual gearbox or a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic. The interior has had a total overhaul, with none of the old Duke's quirky bits making their way over to the new car. The cabin is still funky though, and really sporty, with flashes of red and gloss black trim. It's bang up to date and features a bright 8-inch touchscreen infotainment system. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are included, along with a useful Wi-Fi hotspot.
While it may do without a clever hybrid system like the Hondas, the Duke is still a versatile family crossover. And if you can do without big alloys and metallic paint, significantly cheaper than the HR-V. The Honda then is an excellent crossover SUV, but like the old model, it seems destined to live in the shadows of Nissans, Renaults and Toyotas.
When we first saw the Mercedes EQS last year, we were a little disappointed. It didn't look anywhere near as good as the concept car we'd seen 2 years earlier, but it made up for it with its stunning cabin and impressive powertrain. And now the wizards at AMG have had a fettle with it to create this, the Mercedes-AMG EQS 53. In a first for Affalterbach, the 53 doesn't have a big V8, and there are no turbos or superchargers in sight. This is AMG's first ever EV. So how has a brand famed for making Mercs louder got on with its first electric car? Well, the standard car provides a good base. The sleek aerodynamic bodywork has been left largely untouched, bar a few AMG badges. Likewise, the interior is still the same. That's to say, it looks like it's been taken straight from the concept car, with its giant screens and LED lighting. There is a sporty AMG steering wheel though, and some carbon fibre trim here and there, but otherwise it's all standard EQS. Where AMG has been busy then is underneath. The 108 kilowatt-hour battery is the same as the standard cars, but here it's powering souped-up electric motors to produce 649 brake horsepower and an immense 700 foot-pounds of torque. Better yet, if you opt for the optional AMG Dynamic Plus package, power is up to 751 brake horsepower. But for now at least, this version isn't available in the UK. Concentrating on the regular EQS 53, it'll hit 62 miles per hour from rest in 3.8 seconds. It's quick then, but there are faster electric saloon cars out there. Instead of outright pace, AMG has concentrated on turning the EQS into a real driver's car. It's a big, all-wheel drive electric saloon car weighing in at over 2.5 tons, so getting this thing to really handle was never going to be an easy task. Like the standard EQS, the 53 gets air suspension and rear-wheeled steering to increase agility, but this time the systems have been returned for a livelier, sportier feel. There are 5 throttle and steering settings to get the car set up just as you'd like it. But if this really is to be a Porsche Taycan rival, it can't just be quick, it needs to be usable too. To that end, AMG has retained most of the EQS's staggering range, achieving up to 377 miles in between charges. On a fast charger, it'll go from 10 to 80% charge in half an hour.
But how does it compare with the Porsche? Its nearest rival in the extensive Taycan lineup is the Turbo. Sitting just under the flagship Turbo S, the Turbo is still a very fast car. It'll beat the Merc to 62 in 3.2 seconds, thanks to its extra 20 horsepower and launch control. But while the Porsche wins on performance, the Mercedes wins on range. The Taycan doesn't even come close, and its sporty cabin isn't quite as impressive as the tech-filled EQS. However, as impressive as the Mercedes is, it comes at a price. It's £155,000, almost 40 grand more than the Taycan Turbo. For that money, you could comfortably get a top-spec Taycan with all the toys.
If you're a keen driver then, the Porsche makes more sense. And if you want a quiet, comfortable electric limousine, the regular EQS is still the one to go for.
Join us again next week on Auto Mundial as we take a look at Chevrolet's new electric Silverado.